take a look at this SAT math question that deals with angles. Now here, we need to make sure that we're remembering some formulas and relationships way back from geometry. So for most students working on their SAT, it's gotta take some dusting off to get these concepts fresh again. The first thing I need to pay attention to is the fact that lines A and B are parallel. Perfect. So I've got that going on, and I can see that they're intersected by line C. Fantastic. It then gives me the measure of D, so I'm going to go ahead and note that here. I've got 7m minus 41, and it gives me the measure of E, which is 5m plus 13. And now it's asking me for F. Well, F is way over here and it doesn't relate to either of these. So a couple of the things that we need to remember here is anytime we have vertical angles, D and E are considered vertical angles because they share the same vertice, which is the point where the angle is formed. We've got the purple line and the green line that is forming both of these together. So the first thing I know is angle D is equal to angle E. The other thing I need to recognize is when I have those two parallel lines, my other two big angles, these two up here, are also going to have the same measure as D and E. And my smaller angles, which is this one here, F, as well as these two right here, these are also going to be congruent or equal to each other. And then we know that any big angle plus any small angle, when we've got these parallel lines and our intersection, are going to be equal to 180 degrees. That's going to be important for us to solve for F as well. So a few relationships to freshen up. So the first thing I need to do is I need to come through and I need to figure out what either angle D or E is. Again, they're the same, but I'm going to take the math that the question gave me. And since these angles are equal, I can set these two expressions equal to each other. So I'm going to put my m's on one side and my constants or my numbers over on the other side. Now, I always recommend that students write these steps out because otherwise it's really easy to lose track of a sign and make a small computational error that's going to cause you to miss the question, even though you know how to do all of the math. So coming through here and solving for m, I get m is equal to 27. Now I've got a great big trap in the answer. And this is a very common thing that the test writers do. You did the math for the first thing you needed, which was to solve for m. It's really common that students lose track of the question, which in this case, what is the value of f? And are like, look, I won. I solved for m. I see that answer. I'm going to choose it and move on. Make sure, especially when you're working on some of the complex questions in the SAT math, that you're going to, once you find a part, come back and read your question and make sure you're answering the question that's being asked. So in this case, I have to eliminate that 27 because that's incorrect. But I am going to use that 27, and I'm going to come back in here to solve for one of my angles. Now, I'm going to use angle E because it has smaller numbers for me to work with, so it's a little bit easier for me to get through that faster. I'm going to plug in that 27 for my n and multiply by 5, and we get 135 plus 13, and that's going to give me the measure of that angle at 148. Look at this. I've got another trap coming into play here. That's the answer to the measure of D or the measure to E, but not to F. So now I need to know, again, E plus F is going to equal 180 degrees. So now I can solve for that F. Again, it's on that straight line. Remember that this F right here is going to be the same measure, this angle right here. So it's making up that straight line. So I can now say 148 plus F is equal to 180. I'm going to subtract my 148 from both sides. Again, show that work. Don't lose track of your signs. And I now know that F is going to be equal to 32 degrees. Freshen up on your geometry formulas and relationships so that you're ready to tackle these questions when you see them on the SAT. Thanks for joining me. See you soon.